Okay, first we're going to talk about how to solve one-step equations and inequalities. Take a look at the screen. I've got two problems that look almost exactly alike, except you'll notice this first one has an equal sign, while this second one has an inequality sign. Remember, that inequality sign is greater than. It's not equal to, it's greater than. But the reason I want to show these side by side is because we're going to actually solve them the same way. And remember, the way we solve equations is with inverse operations. Inverse just means we're going to do the opposite of what's with our number. And so we'll start with the equation. X minus 14.8 equals 23.2. If you draw your line down your equal sign, we need to do the opposite of subtraction. Okay? What's the opposite of subtraction? It's going to be to add. So we're going to add 14.8. But whatever we do to one side, we got to do to the other. So we're going to add 14.8 to both sides. A negative 14.8 and a positive 14.8, they make 0. So now we're just left with x. And on the other side, 23.2 plus 14.8 is going to make 38.0, or just 38. And so our answer would be x equals 38. Now, the reason I want to show you this, because even though most of you can probably figure out how to solve one-step equations, it is from 6th grade. Okay? We're going to do the inequality literally the exact same way. So we're going to draw a line down our inequality, our greater than. We have a minus 14.8, so the opposite would be to add 14.8 to both sides. The negative 14.8 and positive 14.8 make 0, and so we're just left with x. The 23.2 plus 14.8 still makes 38. But instead of an equal sign, we have to keep our inequality. So x is greater than 38. That's our answer. Remember, what we have to do, we're working on doing the opposite. Okay? The opposite of subtraction is addition. It's called inverse operations. Let's do another example. In this example, we have 7 plus m equals 16.1. Or 7 plus m is less than or equal to 16.1. We're going to solve these the exact same way. What's important to remember about this one would be what sign is in front of that 7. If there's no sign there, that just becomes like a positive 7. So when we go and do the opposite, we're going to draw our line down our equal sign, and we're going to subtract 7 from each side. A positive 7 and a negative 7 make 0. They're gone, and we're just left with m. And 16.1 minus 7 is going to be 9.1. And those will be equal. So m equals 9.1. Okay? On the inequality side, this says positive 7 plus m is less than or equal to 16.1. So we'll draw our line down our inequality sign. We're still going to subtract 7 from each side. Okay? Positive 7 minus 7 makes 0, so we're left with m. Over here, we're left with 9.1, and we keep our inequality less than or equal to. So m is less than or equal to 9.1. We solve the inequalities the same way we would solve the equations. Okay? Let's try example number 3. In this example, we have 5y equals 34. Just to be clear, if you have a a coefficient, a number that's attached to our variable, there is an invisible multiplication sign in between there. So that says 5 times y equals 34. So we'll draw our line down our inequality. And remember, we're still doing inverse operations. What's the opposite of multiplication? It would be to divide. 5 divided by 5 is actually 1, which leaves us with multiplying by 1, which just gives us our variable of y. But whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So 34 divided by 5, and you should get 6.8. Okay. On the other side, we go about this the exact same way. Draw our line down our inequality, our less than. We have multiplication, so the inverse would be to divide. We're going to divide each side by 5. The 5s make 1, so we're multiplying by 1, which means we just have y. And the 34 divided by 5 is 6.8. And we'll keep our inequality. Y is less than 6.8. Right. Let's do one more example. In this example, we have a fraction. The fraction shouldn't concern us. That's just a way to show division. So these are division problems. What's the inverse or the opposite of division? It's going to be to multiply. Okay? Or better yet, to kind of multiply by the reciprocal. So if we draw our line down our equal sign, we're going to actually multiply by 6 over 1. And 6 over 1 times the 1 over 6 leaves us with 1. So we're multiplying by 1. That just leaves us with our variable of a. But whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we're going to multiply this by 6 over 1. Don't let the fraction confuse you. You just multiply straight across. And we should get 72 over 1, which is actually just 72. So A equals 72. The inequality will be done exactly the same way. We'll draw our line down our inequality that says greater than or equal to. We're going to multiply each side by 6, or 6 over 1. That leaves us with 1, so we're left with our variable of a. On the other side, if we multiply by 6 over 1, we're left with 72 over 1, which is just 72, and we'll keep our inequality. A is greater than or equal to 72. So with all of these examples, you have to know inverse operations, what's the opposite, and then the inequalities are done exactly the same way as the equations.